But I believe that the jobs opportunity for Vermont comes from the simple opportunity in, as we get off our addiction to oil and move to other technologies, huge money is going to be made. And the only question is, will we have a government with the business experience and the legislative experience to seize some piece of that opportunity? I promise you that together we will. And we'll put Vermonters back to work. We'll power our future. We'll get off the old aging nuclear power plant and move to solar, wind, biomass, and small hydro. And together, between that transformation and being the efficiency state, the rest of the country will wish that they were Vermonters with us. Let's do it together. You elect me governor. That's what we'll focus on. A bright economic future, good jobs, a great future, and doing it right for the future of the planet. Let's do it together.
I want to start with Vermont Yankee in a series of questions and ask you, we'll talk about the possible license extension, but I want to ask you about the waste that is currently there today. What do you believe should be done with that? Senator Shumlin, start with you. We'll each get a minute on this one.
Well, let me start by saying, as someone who was born and raised in Windham County, I wish that they would take it away. But I know that's not going to happen. And so the obvious question is, what do we do? There's two questions on waste. The first is, we now have high-level nuclear waste stored on the banks of the Connecticut River near a floodplain. We know that's not smart. The second problem we have is that it's owned by a company, Entergy Louisiana, who can't tell us the truth, who won't tell us the truth, and who wants to leave the carcass of the plant on the banks of the Connecticut River for 60 years so that the decommissioning fund will fill up its $600 million shortfall. We don't want that either. And as governor, I will say to Entergy Louisiana, listen, if you could pay your CEO, Mr. Leonard, $350 million to take care of his family over the last 3 years, I see no reason why you can't spend the $600 million that you're refusing to put in a fund, but you promised to put in a fund, to take that plant away on time after we close it down in 2012. That's the kind of leadership you need from a governor.
So is that a ship it out of the state or keep it here?
There is no place to ship it, unfortunately, but I obviously would advocate for getting rid of it any way that we could.
Okay. Lieutenant Governor Dubie.
Well, there's much of what I agree with Senator Shumlin on his answer. We should hold Entergy Louisiana for the decommissioning fund. We should hold Entergy Louisiana accountable for the waste that is stored in the parking lot on the banks of the Connecticut River. We should have the expectation that our federal government leads up to the promise that they made that they would help states deal with these nuclear wastes. These are critically important issues for not just our state, but for our entire nation.
I agree that I would certainly hold them accountable. I agree with Ryan on that. I appreciate his answer. Where we disagree is this simple. I believe that in 2012, Entergy should be retired on schedule. And I've come to that conclusion for lots of reasons. Brian disagrees with me on that. I think it's really important, and this is an opportunity for Vermont, to get rid of a company, say goodbye to a company, that won't tell the truth, that won't fill up the decommissioning fund, that's leaking tritium and cobalt, cesium, strontium-90 into the ground, in the Green Valley where I was born and raised, that simply doesn't do business the way we do business in Vermont. How Brian could now trust them, suggest that they could somehow regain their trust, puzzles me. I can tell you that I've learned building a small business from scratch. If someone that you're doing business with stings you once, they'll sting you again and again and again. A governor needs to lead. I say no, Entergy Louisiana.
Lieutenant Governor Dubie, could you clarify this? Do you support the 20-year license extension? And as part of this, Senator Shumlin, if there were a new owner, would it change the equation for you? Lieutenant Governor Dubie?
Well, thanks for the question. It's a privilege to be able to clarify the $300,000 of ads that are being projected across the state of Vermont in response to that question. The vote that happened in the Vermont Senate was not to should Vermont Yankee be relicensed for 20 years. The vote was, should the question be sent to the Public Service Board? The Public Service Board was created 30 years ago by the General Assembly to address technically complex issues. They have tools that the General Assembly doesn't have. They can take testimony under oath. It's a higher legal standard. So I would have voted, when asked how I would have voted, I would have voted to send that question to the Public Service Board. For many of the questions that we've already discussed, the decommissioning fund, the terms of the contract, what is the technical risk as evaluated by experts, giving the General Assembly the right to up or down vote after the analysis of the Public Service Board. My commitment is, before I hand a pink slip to a mom or a dad of the 650 people who work in Vermont Yankee, I'm going to be able to look them in the eye and say, I did my job, I evaluated all the data, and this is the conclusion that we have come to.
Senator Shumlin, new owner, question?
Let me just quickly respond to Brian's question because I'm puzzled by that answer. I'm puzzled because when I wasn't in the legislature for 4 years, the legislature passed a bill which Governor Douglas signed, which Lieutenant Governor Dubie supported, and which Energy Louisiana supported, that gave the legislature the authority to vote affirmatively on relicensure before the Public Service Board could act. That's what the law says. Why, Brian, I would ask, since you supported that bill, would you now say that that wasn't the right way to go? The time to oppose that was at the time, not in hindsight, when you realized that the legislature didn't have the votes to act affirmatively. So I think you've got to be consistent as governor. I've been consistent, I'll continue to be. We should retire Vermont Yankee on schedule in 2012 and move to wind, solar, biomass, wind, small hydro. We have a really bright energy future. Energy, Hydro-Quebec, we just signed a great contract with them. There's plenty of juice on the market. Let's be smart, let's create jobs in Vermont.
All right.
Has a 28.5-year half-life and causes leukemia and cancer. It kills you. This is not something that you would want in the waters of Lake Champlain, in the groundwater in Chittenden County, any more than we do in Windham County. They didn't tell the truth. The pipes existed. They leaked. I don't need the Attorney General report to tell me what to do. Send Energy to Louisiana, back to Louisiana.
I want to ask about the decommissioning fund. Senator Shumlin, you just mentioned you felt it's inadequate. How inadequate, and what will you do to beef it up?
Extraordinarily inadequate because of the leak. We have now passed 2 bills to the Douglas Dubie administration in the legislature with the help of Speaker Smith, who's here, and a lot of legislators in this room. They've both been vetoed. They would have required Energy Louisiana to keep their promise to Vermonters and either fill it up or sign securities agreeing that they would when the time comes. The estimate for decommissioning was $1 billion pre-leak. In most plants that have had similar leaks, it is as much as double the cost of decommissioning. So we know it's $600 million short pre-leak. After leak, it could be anywhere from $600 million to $1.6 billion. That's a lot of money. Energy Louisiana, make no mistake about it, I've made this judgment. As governor, I will fight for you. They want Vermont to pay that bill. If I'm governor, they will pay that bill.
Lieutenant Governor Dubie?
But for the record, safety is always going to be the premier consideration when considering the future of Vermont Yankee. I have read the Public Oversight report, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
A huge challenge with multiple challenges on multiple fronts that someone's got to hit the ground running really fast to solve. Joblessness, lack of hope, an energy policy that hasn't existed for 8 years that we need to develop, cleaning up Lake Champlain, putting Vermonters back to work, feeding our homeless, the list goes on and on. So this is what I'm going to do. I promise as governor, if you elect me, that I'm going to focus on the real challenges that we have before us where I can really make a difference. There has not been a new nuclear power plant built in America since the 1970s. I was a child. I'm going to focus on the real problems that Vermont faces. We can't even cite a landfill in this state, and there's never been a plant built in the 50 states in almost 40 years. Let's focus on what we have to do. Build wind, solar, biomass, small hydro, renewables, efficiency. Let's get the job done together. I'm going to focus on what I can control, and that's it.
Do you believe that the amount of carbon that goes into the atmosphere should be regulated? Senator Shumlin? Carbon dioxide.
You know, this is where I am on carbon regulation and everything related to climate change. I find it astounding that as a society, we sit here as the biggest consumer of energy, the greediest country on energy in the world, and act as if we have a lot of time to solve this problem. We don't. When I committed the legislature looking at climate change, there was two reasons. The first was, it kind of seems like the future of the planet is a big one to me. I think that's a big one. Now, the Dubie Douglas administration said it was a petite issue. Okay, there's a difference of opinion. Brian's not even sure I'm not sure he's committed to the notion that climate change is man-made. I'm sold, I get it, it is. So what I say about carbon emission is, we've got to scramble as fast as we can. The planet actually is going to be fine. It's the organisms living in it that are in trouble, among which we are some. We've got to do everything in our power as quickly as possible. Vermont can lead. As governor, I get it. We need a few more governors who aren't taking the special interest money, but can actually get it done. I'll be that governor if you give me a chance.
Okay, do you think that it should be regulated, yes or no?
Yes, I do think it should be regulated, and I think that we have to understand when we regulate it, that the other 49 states need to join us. It's much tougher to do state by state, obviously. We need to do everything we can to get off our dicks of oil, including regulate carbon in the future.
Can I go to Dubie?
No, I don't think it should be regulated, but I would consider a carbon tax. I would consider a tax on imported fuel or on petroleum products that generate carbon dioxide. Tax it, and we should let the marketplace allocate the true cost of importing in terms of national security, environmental security, and economic security. So as someone who's I'm suspect of regulations, and I would have more faith in the marketplace to sort out the true cost and developing solutions.
Let me give you each another minute on this topic if there's anything you want to add.
There he goes again, wanting to raise your taxes. I don't know what to do. I can't stop. You know, Sarah Palin said, I know I shouldn't go there, but I will. She said, I can see Russia from my house. Well, I can see New Hampshire from mine. And the problem is, if you use taxes in one state to drive this debate, all we do is we fill her up across the river. It ain't going to work. So what I would do is what I said. The best efficiency program in the country, driven by the incentives we need to build renewables, together with the understanding that it's a much broader discussion. We have a bright ag future. Grow local, buy local, get our farmers the value-added tax, have a bright ag future, give the resources, the VHCB, to conserve farmland so that we have a bright ag future. Make sure that we're building our buildings to the right standards, replacing the windows and the doors, insulating. Let's leave the country there. Let's not have the highest fuel taxes so that we drive purchases to the other states around us.
I'm going to give you another minute.
For the record, I'm suggesting as a nation. As a state, I think we're overtaxed. I think we pay too many taxes. Answering the question of, do I think regulation should help us solve the problem? No, I think we should do it as a nation to think about better using the marketplace to solve the problem. Once again, I'm proud of the fact that Vermont has done an excellent job with weatherization. Can we do more? Absolutely.